What is going on, gang? Um, just a peek behind the curtain here. Uh, Obviously, no Raid next to me, no guest at all. And the reason for that is because Raid and I actually recorded a podcast on Monday night, of which I recorded through the wrong microphone. I picked up the webcam's microphone instead of these microphones here in front of us, so that footage was unusable. So I recorded a podcast by myself in order to just have a podcast for you guys. Appreciate all the love we got in the last video, and wanted to give you guys, a follow up and that kind of thing. So I decided to record one by myself, and lo and behold, I did the same thing. Shitty audio again. So this is now the third time I've recorded this week's podcast. My apologies. So I'm a little I'm a little upset. On top of that, I'm sick as a dog. I had to leave work early today, which sucked, and I'm sweating profusely, trying to sweat whatever this is out of me, some sort of virus or flu or something. And yeah, I feel like shit. So I recorded like a 45-minute, solo pod, and I guess I'm about to do the same thing again. And I guess the benefit of that would be that now it's all in here. It's probably not. We're just gonna fly off the cuff. Um, I'm so deflated, which is the theme of this week's podcast: deflation, depression, and Yu-Gi-Oh. Um, and just the wild week I had, and my feelings on it. So let's just get into this episode for the third time and enjoy. All right, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna try to fly through this one again. Like I said in the intro, this is the third time of me recording this. Second time tonight. So yeah, it's a little brutal. I also like recording these solos is just kind of not my thing. I just love being able to go back and forth with a buddy or one of the team. So this is a bit of a struggle for me to do, but I'm gonna give you guys my absolute best, even under these conditions. This is Jordan Flu game. And we're going to talk about my week in Yu-Gi-Oh! We're going to talk a little bit about the Rarity 5 announcement, and a little bit about Genesys, ban list versus point total, stuff like that. Okay, my week in Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm going to try to boil this down as quickly as I can. My week in Yu-Gi-Oh! Started on Tuesday. I went to a Southside Locals. My first round, I played against fellow team member Sam. That was a Draco branded mirror match. I was able to pull away with the win. It was a great game. Sam knows what he's doing with the deck. And a testament to that is this Tuesday. I'm recording this here on Wednesday night, uploading for you guys on Thursday. Yesterday, Tuesday, Sam won that locals because I wasn't there. But he won that locals. I'm actually not sure what deck he played. He said he was inspired by last week's pod, so maybe he's playing a new deck. I don't know. But congrats to him. Shout out you, Sam. But that locals last week, I went there. And I have a couple stories from my week in Yu-Gi-Oh, which is gonna make this extend this a little bit. Normally, I just tell you my record and how it felt and all that stuff and weird interactions, but this one's chock full of them. So played against Sam, won that game, or won that match. Sorry. My next match was against a VSK9 player. This is a guy who plays at both that Southside Locals and both the locals on the North Side that I regularly or normally go to. Never had an issue with this guy, and I would be surprised to learn that this guy had an issue with me. But such is life. Who knows? Anyway, game one. I think he goes first. He builds his board. I'm looking at his board and I'm going, yeah, there's no way. Let's go to game two. So we do that. And I go first. My hand is pretty good. I think I get a Fenrir. I get a branded fusion. I get Rahu or K2. And then, yeah, I think maybe a Malulu or something. At any rate, I begin comboing. I think he ashes the Rahu. And I believe my hand was weird. So I think I made Gulamel first, which is not standard. I can't remember why, but anyway, basically, I get to resolve the branded fusion. I make Sanctifier with Frixel and Albaz. I set one trap because he had ashed the Rahu. He kept me off having, all three or at least two traps. But Frixel's able to set me what would have been a third, but is now first. So I think I set Flame. My grave is Dracotail Pan, Dracotail Malulu, and maybe the Fenrir's in there at this point, but either way. Maybe he even imperm the Fenrir or something. So I go to pass. And he goes, okay, still in main, Azuna. And I'm like, well, fuck. Because if you watched the last episode of the pod, I play tested a bunch against Andre. I recognize that VS K9 is a tough matchup, even for Draco branded or branded Draco, I should say. So, with all that in mind, I'm used to these lines. I know, based off the board I've ended on with the negated Fenrir, I have very limited interaction in not allowing this guy to go into a rank 5 play. Anything short of, say, Bell or Ash to stop the dump. But I have neither of those, so he goes Azuna send Lupus effect to summon, Lupus effect to Xyz. So at this point, I pick up the Sanctifier as if to hand it to him. And I go, Nash Knight? And he kind of, I don't know. And I'm like, okay. So I put back down the Sanctifier. He makes K9 Jacks. I'm like, that's weird. Okay. He detaches to pop a monster, targeted, and he targets Sanctifier. And I, explain to him that it's the first line of text on that bad boy. And so he pops, whatever it is, the Gulamel or the Arthalion, the fusion monster on my board, which allows me to activate Pan, summon back Malulu. Which gives me a play on his turn now because I can quick effect fuse. So I'm like, okay, that's weird. So then he goes draw phase, and I go, before you draw, can I ask you something? And he's like, yeah, man. And I'm like, did you just not make Nash Knight to spite me because I asked? And he was straight up like, yeah, you don't know what I'm up to. And I'm like, you probably should have made Nash Knight. Like, you're playing K9. I know you're playing Nash Knight. Like, that wins you the game. You steal my Sanctifier. I end like a Gulamel and Flame. You can play through that. Whatever. So, what should have been a match that took 10 minutes long, he wins, round 1 in 5 minutes. He should have won round 2 in 5 minutes. This game 2 takes 35 minutes. And I win. All because this guy was like being stubborn, and it was bizarre. And again, I playtest with Andre like a fuck ton. So I'm like, I know the lie. I know, like, yeah, Nash Knight here wins you the game. Like, I don't have enough to push through that. And this guy just didn't like that I did that. Which, again, felt like out of character. Again, I've never had an issue with this guy. Maybe just having a rough day or something. I don't know. But it was bizarre. We go game 3. He ends up pulling off the game 3. I bricked pretty bad. It was top decking at the end, and top decking Urgla. I couldn't do anything with it, so we lose. Then I play another Dracotail mirror match. I win that one. I play against Blue Eyes, and I win that one too. So I go X1. I'm feeling pretty good. I lost to a deck that I know I struggle into, and I gave myself a fighting chance, and I probably shouldn't have even had it because this guy's just kind of being weird about it. So whatever. The next time I play Yu-Gi-Oh's on Thursday night, and it's with Raid. We play test. We're just going, his Blue Eyes deck versus my uh, Draco branded deck, and I'm sure he's comfortable with me saying this because we talked about this in the pod that unfortunately has lost to time. But he maybe takes like 2 games out of like the 8 we play. Um, you know, I going first, he going first, back to backs, post side, whatever. Um, so I'm feeling pretty confident playing into Blue Eyes specifically, which is relevant. So Friday night I go and I play the Northside locals. It ends up being a 4 round tournament. Um, and I play against, what are the characters out of the locals? I won't go into it more so than that. Just that, the Yu-Gi-Oh community spectrum falls, you know, Venn diagrammy, or at least in tandem with other, um, colloquially referenced spectrums. And one of like legends at our locals, this guy who's a legend in the community, loves card games, older guy. He blows up my phone every day about new combos. You know, if you're if you go to my locals and you're in the Facebook, buy and sell group, you're familiar with this guy because he'll tell anybody who's looking for any card, why that deck sucks. Anyway, he's the best. I end up playing this guy. He's playing um, True Draco Dinosaur. It's a quick 2 games, and then we play a couple more for fun, whatever. Um, I'm just having a good time. Then I play in the branded. There's a guy who's playing it for the first time. He's a good player outside of this one match we had. But he's just getting his feet wet with the branded deck kind of thing. And I feel like pure branded struggles into Draco branded just because like decks kind of do the same thing, and I get to play 20 hand traps and you get to play 3 ash blossoms. So it's tough, like genuinely. If you don't full idol lock or whatever, like you're gonna struggle. Which is cringe. Anyway, play against branded. The next game I play was against Sulfa Chord Melodious, which was a cool build. Cool guy, my guy Tavon. Shout outs to you, brother. That was a good game. I was able to win that one 2-0. All my pairings have been 2-0 at this point. And then the finals. So I'm 3-0. And I'm like, hell yeah. And lo and behold, I'm playing against a Blue Eyes player in the final round. So I'm like, golden. Last night, I just played 8 rounds into this, and I took 6 of them. But with that in mind, I'm like, there's a potential I could lose to. Because, right, he took 2 off me. So I'm like, just play smart. Don't overextend. You know these lines. You've played against this deck a lot. And this guy is X1 at this time. I'm the only XO player going into the last round. I think someone dropped or something. I don't know what happened. But anyway. In game 1, I think I went first. And my hand was Femena and 4 hand traps. So I pass. Perilia Fu or whatever. He normal summons Neo Kaiser Seahorse, and I bounce it either by Horn or Thalion. Maybe I opened Horn and set it or something. Anyway, I bounce it. He then activates a Wishes that he drew, sends it as cost, and then adds Sage and Majesty. Which if you're a Blue Eyes player, you're seeing the problem. He's already normaled. He doesn't have access to, because I bounced his Neo Kaiser. He didn't get into the Link monster, which means he didn't get to add Moz, which means he doesn't get a second normal summon, which means the Sage is dead in his hand. He's got, I think, off of the Neo Kaiser, he sent Blue Eyes to grave. So in theory, he does get a pop 1 off the Majesty, but is that enough? Probably not. So he adds this, and then he starts like hemming and hawing, and I'm like, or he's like, oh fuck, I fucked up. It kind of just like, you know, under his breath kind of thing. And I recognize this, and you know, again, I just played against this all night last night. Um, and in my head, I'm like, if I was in his shoes, I probably would have gone. Um, if Sage, then you grab the Mazo, but if not, you just go Maiden and Majesty say. Um, so I tell him, um, he says, "Oh, I fucked up. I already normaled. Okay, pass to you." And before I draw for turn, I go, "Were you supposed to add Maiden?" And he goes, "Yeah, probably." And then I had a moment, and I was like, "Okay, just do it, man." And he's like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's all good." He goes, "Okay, still in main, Maiden, True Light, Reborn, the Blue Eyes Reborn, the Maiden, Wishes, equip the Blue Eyes with the Neo Blue Eyes, make Tyrant, he runs over my board, and then, I go to top deck, and my card's actually bad, and I end up losing that game because I was being nice. But if you watched the last episode of the pod, I said to Andre at one point, I don't want to win games because people don't know what they're doing. I want to win because I outplayed my opponent. And I feel like this was one of those examples. And I don't want to come off as high and mighty and noble and whatever. And, I'm the chairman of, fucking teaching guys how to play their own decks. I don't feel that way at all. I was just like, this is a guy, like, I'm like friendly with at the locals, good guy, he's met up with me to do like trades and shit before. So I'm like, yeah, I don't want this guy to like go home feeling shitty that he like fucked up one spot. And I wanted to win by my own merit. So whatever. Game 2, I win. Game 3 becomes a grind, and I lose. And yeah, I can't remember what I had in hand, but he's able to make a few big dudes and swing for game, and I'm like, damn. So I lost that match, and I probably should have won, but I had that moment, and I let the guy fix his play, which was the right thing to do, and but on the ride home kind of thing, I'm like, man, like, maybe I just got to be a savage with it, but my mindset is always like, save that for like regionals, YCS kind of thing. Locals, like, go to like play and win, but also learn. And that doesn't constitute learning for me. Anyway, sorry guys. All that to say, I'm going home, and I'm like, you know what? It's fine. Came close. You went X1 again. But fucking lock it in and go win the tournament on Sunday. Like, enough playing around. Okay? And so Sunday comes. Here comes another story. So there's another guy at our locals. Not the same guy as my Friday night story, but this guy, like, I would say he's more so a fan of like the anime more so than he is of like the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game. And what I mean by that is that, like, absolute character, this guy, and like, he just plays like the main character's deck. So back in the day, we took to calling him Yuma because he literally played the lead character from Zexel's deck. And now I don't want to expose this guy, but now he plays like the lead character from Vrains' deck. And he's a pretty animated guy. Like, you'll hear him sometimes, not so fast, Mirror Force, and then somebody will go, "Okay, I negate," and he's like, "Oh." So yeah, but the thing is, like, again, the Yu-Gi-Oh community operates on a lot of different wavelengths. So it's not easy for everyone who plays our game to interact with somebody who's like intense that way. It's tough to understand. It's tough to like comprehend. And it's tough to like empathize. I guess is my kind of take on it. For me, I have a miserable time playing against this guy because like I can tell me, you know, stopping his things and interacting with his lines is like upsetting, and he has like a tough time like caging that upset. I guess I'll say like he doesn't like yell or get angry. He's just like he gets upset, and not upset like he'll complain. You can just see like a shift in demeanor. Um, and he's a grown ass man, so like, all right, man, play a better deck. But that's not his thing. Um, it's not like the guy who like shows up to locals and is like, I want to play Orcust, but all these decks are too good. It's like, shut up, you suck. Um, Buy a better deck then if you want to play. But this guy, it's a little bit different because it's like he's not trying to be, the best duelist in the room. He's trying to be the lead character from the show. So with all this in mind, bright and early on Sunday morning, I'm like, I'm gonna play into this. I got a couple of my buddies in the corner of on the other side of the room where we play in, and I'm like, they're gonna hear me go in. The only part I felt bad about was was a guy sitting next to me, and it was like his first time at a locals at all. Um, he ended up being a chill guy. He got it, whatever. But I'm like going in. I'm like, now I'll activate my Trickle-Tail Femina, and I'll fuse on your turn. What are you gonna do about it? Excuse me. Uh, Type of thing, and the match ended, I should say, with him activating, Swords of Revealing Light, and then I go into battle phase and then flip flame and negate it, and I'm like, say goodbye to your precious Swords of Revealing Light. I don't know whether or not he appreciated losing in a theatrical way. Maybe that made things worse, but it was fun for me. It was fun for me. It was fun for the other people in the shop, I think. Of course, maybe there are some people who are like, yo, it's too early for this bullshit. And that's also valid. But, time will tell. He was pretty friendly with me afterwards, and that's usually not the case. So maybe he just needed, a castmate to play the villain of his anime. Anyways, that was round one. So then I actually play against Branded again. So my two days are pretty similar here. Play against Branded. This guy's playing the whole fucking idol lock with Dragoon and whatever. Game one, I don't draw enough hand traps. He idol locks with Dragoon. I just pass to next. Game two, set up my board. He can't do much. I win that one. Game three, he goes first again. So obviously I'm siding in trying to accommodate for the potential of being idol locked. So he kind of fucks up, and who knows where the game would have gone had he not. I probably don't lose on the spot, but he probably gets another battle phase is the way I've kind of done the math on it. But essentially what happens is he goes, full combo, turn one, does the idol lock, ends on Sanctifier, and thrusts into DDG, Different Dimension Ground. So his play here in my draw phase should be chain one, Sanctifier, targeting Ido and whatever, Fuelos, Perulia, Ash Blossom, whatever, some dweeb. That should be chain one. Chain two immediately, if I have no response, should be DDG. Now, certainly he doesn't know that I've drawn the Fallen and the Virtuous not for turn, but in my starting five. There's no way he could have known that kind of thing. But maybe considered it, and maybe gone DDG, but maybe he was trying to save it more so for when I activated like Rahu or K2, so that my materials went to grave. Because if he activated it prematurely, I would be less incentivized to even activate those cards and save them for follow up, try to stall out, and then activate them later. But that's what he should have probably done, factoring in that, one of Draco Tail's outs for Ido is the Fallen and the Virtuous. So that's what I do. I don't respond to the Sanctifier effect. Still in the draw phase, I activate. He chains DDG to the activation, but Fallen and the Virtuous sends for cost. So it sends for cost. I pop the Ido. Under DDG, I normal summon Malulu. I pass turn. And the Ido gets banned, which is important because you can't do it again. But anyways, at some point I fuse away the Malulu and negate the Sanctifier anyways. The game maybe goes another turn, and then I'm able to win. Yeah, I don't know. This is all I'll say. Branded's like such a cool lore, such a cool deck, great art, all of that. Idol locks are cringe. Dragoon's a little cringe. I think in this day and age, especially as a Dracotail player, I'm not too concerned with playing into Dragoon. We go Malulu negate and then, bounce it or fucking pan pop it or whatever. So it's not a big deal, but I don't know. When Brandy gets new support in Burst Protocol, like it'll be interesting to see how we adapt. Anywho, so I win that game. My third game. This one. Fucking little. I was gripping the belt a little bit on this one. Go into Pure Mitsu against a very good player. This guy's probably got the most wins of like OTSs and like locals wins. At this shop. Very good player. And he's playing Pure Mitsu. And I basically just outgrind him. Game one, it's kind of funny. He goes first. I activate Perulia. He doesn't do anything and passes. I summon 4 guys and attack for game. We go game 2. Game 2, he goes first again. It's a bit of a game, but he comes away with it. Then game 3, there's a moment where he's going into battle. I don't have much on board, and I do the math, and I feel like in the past it may have been something I looked at and just like, yeah, okay, you got it. But I'm so locked in wanting to win this tournament for whatever reason. I just wanted redemption from Friday. That I do the math and I read all the cards and whatever, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna have 200 life points left or whatever it ended up being. And I say to myself, I don't fucking care if I have 0.5 life points left. If I'm not dead, I can still win this game. And sure enough, the game ends with him summoning like a Dynamundo and having a Murakumo on board. I save my fusion, my quick effect fuse. I can't remember. It's either Malulu or Femina. And I bounce both back, and there's a minute left on the clock, and he's like, yeah, you got it. And I'm like, holy shit, what a game that was. It like came down to the wire kind of thing. Great game. And then I'm going into the finals again, undefeated. And sure enough, I play against fucking Jackson. Shout out to Jackson, fan of the show, the boy. And yeah, shout out to you, bro. And Jackson's on Yummy Sulfur, and I think you may have been collaborating on the deck list with another player at our locals or something like that. But Jackson's a great player. Our locals actually keeps like a leaderboard. The leaderboard is a testament to how well you play and how many wins you get, but also how much you play, because it accounts for the 2 advanced format nights they hold a week, but also the 2 Genesys formats, Genesys format events they hold each week. So say you play in all 4 of those and you go, even X2, you're getting 12 points a week, which add to your, score. Whereas, say like myself, I'm just making excuses for myself. I'm 10 on the leaderboard or whatever. But if you only play once a week, the max points you can get is like 5, say. So, the people who are like the top of the leaderboard are all great players. And they also play a lot. But Jackson's one of them. I think he's 4. Jackson plays a lot, and he's good at the game. And I love playing against Jackson. I think I beat Jackson maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago at the Southside tourney. Anyway, me and Jackson have a good match. Goes to game 3. And I do the kind of same thing where I'm like, I only need 1 life point. And I'm doing the math. And I do the math fucking wrong. And he attacks. He goes 26. And I'm like, damn, that thing's at 26. I thought it was at 23. And so I lose that game. Not that I could have done much else. He surprised 2 of my guys away, then tagged out. Fucking bullshit. But shout out to Jackson. Well earned. Well deserved, happy for you, man. But I lose again in the finals. Now, this is just the finals of a locals. Sunday afternoon locals. So who cares? It was just the finals of Friday night locals. So who cares? I didn't even make the finals of the Tuesday night locals. But why I'm telling you guys all this stuff is after losing again, after going, XO for 3 rounds, and then losing a single match in the finals, the way I'm feeling is absolutely abysmal. Now, I should say, like, probably up to this point, there's been more weeks where I've gone X2 than I've gone X1 in my life. Absolutely. And viewers of this pod will know I've always said, like, when I go X2, I feel like I shouldn't have showed up because on paper my deck should go X2 kind of thing. So it feels like I could have just autopiloted. We look at each other's hands and determine a winner. I'd probably go X2. And that's not how I want to win games. I want my skill as a player to shine through, which feels good when you go X1 kind of thing. But, after Friday, after Sunday, the feeling I have is it's not good enough. Like, sure, X1's cool, but I should have won both of those. And the frustrating thing was, apart from, telling the Blue Eyes player he could go back and change his ad, which, again, I've explained as that felt like the right thing for me to do. I don't think I misplayed, all week long. And that's the real, like, devastating part of it, is that, like, I don't think there's much more I could have done better, and it still wasn't quite enough. And that might seem hyperbolic or, like, dramatic, but the part that's really sticking with me is when I look at the week as a whole. 12 matches, 3 losses. So what that means is if this was a YCS and I was playing 12 matches, I don't make Top Cut. I don't go X2, I go X3, and it's not enough. So that was the position I was in on Sunday evening or afternoon, and queuing in to Jackson. At that point, I'm 9-2 for the week, and I'm not able to come away with it. So that's like last round of Swiss at YCS, and I bubble out. So fucking, and I understand that's not what happened to me. I played a bunch of locals and I lost them. Boo-hoo. I'm sure people, if they heard this and they're people who've topped those events and stuff, they're like, yeah, okay, get over yourself. But I think it's just like, I want to be a player that can go and top those events and has the fortitude to do so, and win when it matters most. Obviously the mindset of this locals and wanting to win the locals is much different than like I'm about to top a YCS. I need to lock in. It's definitely different. But and let me say this. I got to be clear on this. In no way, shape, or form do I think the the matchups I played into this week are at all indicative of what I might face at a YCS or even a regional. And how well I played into them is not indicative of how well I may play into other matchups at a larger tournament. I want to make that clear. I don't think it's a 1-to-1. 9-3 at locals in a week is not the same as playing 12 straight rounds of Swiss. I fully acknowledge that. But viewing it analytically through my own lens of competitive nature, it just sucks. I don't want Jackson to feel bad like he sent me into a spiral or something, but it was more so like, for so long since I started playing this game, came back to this game like a year ago. My thing was, when I played competitively 10 years ago, I always went X2 every single weekend. If I had played in 20 tournaments, back then, 10 years ago, 15 of them I went X2, and 5 of them was worse because I was playing like relinquished or something. But when I came back into the game, it was more so like, I don't want that to be, where I'm at. And I said earlier, like, maybe there's times I've probably gone X2 more than I've gone X1, but I think over the past year, I'd have to pull it up on my Neuron, but over the past year, I think maybe that's balancing out a little more. Specifically, like over the last year, playing Draco Tail and Malice, I feel like my ratio, my KD is good. I've definitely won more games than I've lost. I just don't know by what the ratio actually is. I'll pull up those stats for next podcast. But all that to say, the new standard has become X1. And now the absolute dread and abysmal feeling I feel from having gone X1 at 3 different events and not being able to come out with at least the last 2, just fucking blows, dude. Like, it just sucks. So now, what does that mean? Does that mean the new standard is XO? Surely not. You can't, well, maybe you can. Is it healthy to expect to win every time? No. Try to win every time? Yes. I guess the fear is burning out, and maintaining a level of enjoyment. Like, if I go X2 2 weekends in a row, what kind of detriment, am I putting on my psyche? If I set my expectations so high that anything short of winning a tournament is a failure, I'm setting myself up for, the potential to be very disappointed, because it's difficult to win even a locals, especially when the quality of player is relatively high. So yeah, I don't know. I'm curious what you guys' thoughts on that. Am I a pretentious dick who's complaining about going X1 three tournaments out of 3 in a week? Like, I'm sure that's a problem a lot of people might like to have. If you're a career X3 guy, and you'd be like, yeah, shut up, man, it's not that bad. Boo-hoo, you didn't win. And I've obviously won locals before. I've won that locals before. I've won other locals. But I think it was just like I put so much pressure on myself to win, and then put myself in the position to do so, and not being able to pull away with it twice was just like, maybe it's just not good enough. No misplays. I'm not at the point right now where I feel like switching decks. I feel great. I feel like, and I think that's what makes it more upsetting, is I feel like I played the best I possibly could, and I don't know if I've ever played this deck as well as I have the last week, say. Um, you know, nailing ratios, uh, combo lines, interaction points, where to hand trap correctly or most optimally or efficiently. I feel like all those things were not things I made mistakes to the point where they were detrimental and affected my success um, until maybe the finals. But even in the finals of either tournament, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know if there's much. I just kind of bricked. Now maybe that comes back to deck building, and maybe the ratios aren't as tweaked as they could be if I find myself bricking more. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Uh, Again, this is the third time I've recorded this podcast, so I've gone over these emotions and feelings 3 times. And as you can tell, I don't have an answer. I don't have a good answer. Am I dog water at the game? And, I should stop playing? No. Everyone else is a dweeb and I'm the best. Just kidding. But, I feel very good and proud of what I accomplished this week. Just like a little butthurt about losing twice in the finals. But, Raid said this on the podcast that's Locked in Time. You got to be locked in like Mamba mentality, like Kobe shit, and let that losing fuel you type of thing. And I think that's the approach I'm going to try to take, and really see if I can replicate what occurred. But yeah, that I guess that's where I'm at with everything right now. And if you have advice for me, or you've been in this position before, let me know. And yeah, we'll just have to take it in stride and keep on keeping on. Anyway, I want to move over into some different topics now. I feel so weird without a co-host. Anyway, Raid and I spoke about the Rarity Collection 5. Now, the biggest thing to note, obviously we're getting reprints like Chaos Angel and Kashtira's and stuff like that. At a certain point, like I'm surprised they announced Rarity 5, because at a certain point, like we have all the staples. And there isn't new staples that are coming out that would fit this print window. Like surely Forbidden Crown won't be in this set kind of thing. I mean, it would be awesome if it was, but we'll probably get like some of the Dominus cards and maybe a reprint of the maybe Meows. I don't know. But the biggest thing to note with the Rarity 5 is the alt arts. So I had a pretty bad take on it on the original recording of this pod, which is fortunate for me. I got to clear the air on something you never heard, so whatever. But I don't love, say, like Trishula zoomed in JPEG with yes stickered across it. It doesn't quite do it for me. And I think there's a kind of it's kind of weird air between Konami and their artists, obviously, because they don't directly credit artists. They subcontract them, and then they kind of don't give the recognition, even if they're artists that they work with a lot. Now, I'm sure the compensation is worth whatever that entails, and I wouldn't have any information on what if it's not. I hope that's the case. So I just find it weird, like, someone would be commissioned to make that art, and then you just like put a sticker over top of it. It's a little strange to me, but my mind changed on this when I saw the Vanquish Soul ones with the like D-pad or like buttons on them. Those look awesome. And if more of the alt art cards follow kind of that where it's not just like, you know, an emoji or something on it. It's like thematic and like, you know, truly an alt art. Um, I think I'd appreciate that more. But there's not too much more I have to say about Rarity 5. Yeah, I think the Rarity sets are great, and I'm glad that they're continuing them. The last thing we spoke about was the Genesys format. Now, the kind of team behind Genesys or that runs Genesys has identified Droll as a potential issue. It's currently at a 60% play rate in Genesys formats. Viewers will know I'm not a regular Genesys player. I play every now and then. I build decks every now and then, but I don't have a competitive drive to compete in Genesys. It's not because I think it's lesser. It's just different, and my focus is on the TCG. That said, the point I made in my previous solo recording of this is that the approach to banning or dealing with problematic cards in Genesys has been to increase their point total, meaning nothing's ever completely out of possibility, but certain degenerate combos can't be played because you might have a 100 and a 1 point total. Those are things we've discussed before. But when it comes to like functionally limiting, semi-limiting, or gatekeeping a card from certain strategies, the logic is you might have decks that cost no points that can play a lot of non-engine spots. You could play all your nibs and your fuas and maybe even your ash and your imperm and, you know, mourner, bell, ogre, whatever, DD crow, because your deck is not as good. So power creep is a thing we hear all the time, and especially in like TCG or in Yu-Gi-Oh in general. And I guess my question currently is the point buy system enough to compensate for that power creep? Because it seems as though the same issue exists in TCG as it does in Genesys. There are strategies that are newer that are unhit. So those strategies dominate. Then there are strategies that have been addressed, sort of, but can still afford to play a lot of non-engine, and don't have consistency issues. Then there are strategies that are just, they can play all the non-engine they can afford. They're just, doing so means they can maybe compete with the decks that have been kind of hit. And I guess my perspective on it is just, that's just the same as the TCG. You hit a deck like Raziel and Malice to lower the consistency. Doesn't lower the overall power level, maybe not. But, you get hits to a deck like Yummy in the way of like Obedient Schooled or, Herald. And then that causes the rise of a deck, say like Sky Striker, that now with new support or a new strategy implemented can now kind of compete on the same level as that deck. And I think that's just Yu-Gi-Oh! Maybe that's just how it's always going to be, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, I hope Genesys can really create a space for itself that feels totally and wholly different. But when you end up in a spot where, we're still debating the necessity of Droll, is it outperforming its point total or its point cost, or is it addressing the certain overpowered nature of a deck that exists in the format? And if we don't have a solid answer for that, it's hard to determine what the next step should be. And I think that's the thing we see often in the TCG where, certain card gets hit. Is that the right card to hit in an archetype? Oh no, they can just replace it with this. Nothing's really changed. Now, raising Droll's point total that just gatekeeps decks that are, pushing, they're at the cap limit, the salary cap limit. Um, Now they can't afford to play Droll. Now they're going to lose more games to that deck that's being held at bay with Droll, kind of thing. So yeah, I hope there is a clear answer that they can find. And again, I'm not a Genesys player, so if you are, let me know. Do you think Droll's overperforming its point total, or do you think it's, um, you know, it's a necessary evil? As a voiceless voice player, I definitely see, the frustration with a card like Droll, but I also see the necessity for it. So, yeah. Uh, I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. Again, third time I've recorded this podcast, so hopefully there's no issues with this one. What I'd like from you guys is if you have, I think we really prefer when we have, say, like a topic to discuss. I thought, our last podcast episode with Andre and I was really cool because it addressed a specific concept or kind of time in a player's development. So if you have any topics you'd like us to address or do a show on, leave them down below, and we'll review those, and maybe we'll make an episode and shout you out for the idea. Yeah, opposed to just like covering the news kind of thing, because new cards come out, we don't know yet. Releases are cool. We love Yu-Gi-Oh! But yeah, guys, thanks a lot. Make sure you're liking the video, subscribe. Again, sorry I'm sick, and we don't get a co-host on this episode of the pod, but next week hopefully I'll be back to full health, and we'll be back in action. All right, peace.